Well, welcome to a wet and windy Tuesday morning in London. It's also pretty rainy here in Yorkshire, the pump room course, for a 28-kilometre race, where I hope to answer Dennis van der Salm's question, what is your training method, Phil? Clearly, I'm going to try and do that whilst not getting dropped, to demonstrate, in part, one of the key aspects of my training method. So I'm not entirely sure of which route of the route of this course. It's not the UCI route, which is the only one I really know. So my objective is to stay in the bunch, the front bunch, hopefully. But we'll see. We seem to be going the opposite direction. Careless off the front. Anyway, Dennis, I'm going to hone in on one particular aspect of my training method, but to summarise the others that have been very well documented during the vlogs, central to it is Ed Laverack's polarised training program, and that emphasises probably 2 hard training days a week in zone 5 and 6 to bring up the top end power. He also emphasises recovery, i.e. plenty of zone 2, nice easy low intensity days, and also I take 2 full rest days a week. More of the zone 2 to come. Additionally, you'll see in the vlog that I emphasise strength training across the year. I'm a big believer in strength training because it builds power and strength, and that's useful for any athletic endeavour, but also flexibility, bone density, and all of that helps prevent against injury. It's not bad also for helping trim a bit of body fat. And obviously I do upper body and lower body. I'll explain why the upper body is important shortly, in my opinion. And I know others will disagree. Give me a second. So I'm losing concentration there. But also, for the lower body, I emphasise the deadlift movements. Single leg Romanian deadlifts, single leg deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, conventional. Great for building power and strength through the posterior chain, the back, the core, and the glutes and hamstrings. Again, strong core, integral to what I'm going to be talking about. I also emphasise the pre-ride nutrition and the post-ride nutrition. I think food, and in particular the nutrients, amino acids, vitamins and minerals are critical for athletic performance and recovery. And good recovery helps athletic performance. One second. It's spitting out the front here. So emphasise pre-training or pre-race, the amino acids, cold coffee and water, and post-race, protein shake to repair muscle damage, greens drinks to deliver vitamins and nutrients and minerals, good for blood health, fruit for vitamin C, I love the berries, helps calm the body down, boost the immune system, as does the greens, and carbohydrates. Lots of carbohydrates to replenish glycogen stores. Carbohydrates are the cyclist's friend. Okay, Concentrating here. Oh, Ed Laverack's here. There's his Petri Tuinen. But the thing I want to emphasise today is the importance of cadence. World record holder for the 1 hour time trial, Mr. Victor Campenaerts, emphasised this lesson to me on one of his vlogs. Link is attached at the end of the video. He says, one of the things that differentiates pros, and I don't consider myself ever getting close to that, from amateurs, is the ability to hold high watts at high cadence. And Victor goes on to prescribe in his video that I highly recommend some high cadence drills to help with your recovery, but also build that neuromuscular connection to help you ultimately deploy high power at RPM of 95 to 105 RPM. You can see here I've been sat in a 95 to 105 range. In this video, Victor demonstrates and talks about a 20-minute recovery session. He says zone 1, 2 recovery days don't need to be more than 20 minutes, and I concur, especially if you're time pressured like I am. And he talks about getting to a point where you can deploy 120 RPM for 20 minutes with a nice circular pedaling stroke, keeping the tension on the chain. Victor acknowledges that it's actually quite difficult, even at low watts, to put down 120 RPM. So he recommends building to 120 RPM for 20 minutes by doing 120 RPM for a minute, 110 for a minute, and so on for 20 minutes, until you build that to 5 minutes 120, 5 minutes 110, and ultimately a full 20 minutes at 120. He says by doing that at low watts, zone 1, zone 2, you have a good recovery day, get nutrients and blood circulating around damaged muscle tissue, and develop good neuromuscular connection. The point being that when you come to race, you're not doing 120 RPM, but you feel comfortable in the 95 to 105 range. I wouldn't say this feels comfortable, but it feels doable. You see here, I'm right on the front of the saddle, trying to get on top of the gear, keep the cadence high. This is a pretty horrible race. But Victor says that by extending your comfort zone in terms of RPM, ultimately that'll make you a better rider, because higher cadence, nice circular pedaling technique is more efficient in terms of energy expenditure and perceived exertion. And I'm definitely finding that. For instance, on the recent climb up Mont Ventoux, where I came P4 in the Cadence, I sustained 93 RPM throughout. Then on Saturday's Champs-Élysées race, 50 minutes, 98 RPM. And on Sunday's Three Sisters climbing race, hour and 15 minutes, 98 RPM. We'll show a little bit of a typical Victor Campenaerts high cadence session now. So here we are, ahead of today's race starting, where I'm just undertaking one of Victor Campenaerts' low intensity zone 1, zone 2 recovery sessions at very high cadence. You can see on the data on the screen, RPM north of 120, left right balance 50-50, but also from the watt bike sausage, I do have dead spots in the pedalling stroke. It's more of a figure of 8 stroke peanut at times than a beautiful green circle. So more to work on there. But I am trying to keep the tension on the chain with a nice circular motion. And I'm finding it much easier to sustain this high cadence. And that has helped me build great neuromuscular connections, such that when I come to race, I'm not aiming for the 120 RPM plus, but it feels much more natural to be at 95 to 105 RPM. And that's the benefit of Victor Campenaerts' low intensity, high cadence training. It builds that neuromuscular connection such that when you come to do the race in real life and you're trying to deploy zone 4, zone 5 power seated, it's that much easier at 95 to 105 RPM. And you can see also the focus here on staying planted in the seat. Victor is very specific about that. And again, the strength training comes into play here. Having strength through the upper body and the pull-ups and the rotating pull-ups and the press-ups helps build arm strength and core strength. But also, as you know, on the lower body, I emphasize the deadlift movement, and that also helps build core strength as well as glute and hamstring strength. And the combination of the strength and power built during the strength phases, which I continue throughout the year, going nowhere near failure, but focusing on power, helps me maintain a nice stable position on the bike, i.e. planted. Anyway, back to the race. My descending is abysmal. In real life as well as virtually. There's Petri Tjonen, strong rider, raced him on Sunday, Three Sisters. I had the better of him that day. But Petri, let's see what you got today. Ed Laverack is having a zone 2, 3 recovery ride. But it's still in the front group, I think. See here, high cadence, seated, planted in the saddle, no swaying. I'm not going to chase the front person. I don't have the strength for that. Let the numbers of the peloton bring that individual back. So we're coming to a nasty climb in about 3 minutes. Let's see if I'm able to stay seated, or I have to go for the emergency out the saddle, mash it drill. It's a fast race this, partly because it's short and there's a lot of people in it. Right on the edge, the forward edge of the saddle, trying to stay on top of the gear. This is proper hard. That was horrid. Here's the polarised training, bringing down the heart rate. That was probably horrid. If you get dropped there, there's no way back.
Alright, let's leave Phil to get his breath back. And while he's doing that, let's head back to the start of the race for the most important part of any race, the warm-up.
So one of the things I've learned not to cut corners on is the warm-up ahead of a Zwift race. Previously I'd be doing, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes, and some of that would be compromised by virtue of the fact the live chat would have started. I'd be interacting with everybody, which is super fun, but not convivial, to a good warm-up. I've learned from my mistakes and tend to find that I'm better for a quality warm-up of 30 to 40 minutes. I wouldn't normally do the Zone 2 high cadence Victor Campenaerts work, FYI. So I go somewhere like the Three Sisters in Watopia, where you've got plenty of hills, flats, and obviously the epic KOM. And as you can see here, gradually ramping the power from Zone 1 into 2, 3, 3, trying to keep the cadence nice and high, in that kind of 95 to 105 range, reinforcing the neuromuscular connection, such that by the time we hit here, the epic KOM, I'll kind of know if the legs are going to be half decent. Sometimes I start the warm-up and the legs don't feel good, but by around about now, 20-30 minutes in, the legs, the lungs, the heart and the mind have warmed to their task, as they have now by the look of it. And the thing about ending the warm-up on the epic KOM is you can increase the resistance a little, just get out of the saddle, drop the cadence, and really warm up the glutes and the hamstrings. Staying well short of my FTP, which is 290 watts. But this feels nice. Hopefully it bodes well for the Zwift race you're now watching. Also during the warm-up, put the gearing back down, cadence up, I'll be taking the opportunity to have my pre-race shake. Always the amino acids, delivering protection for the muscles. Muscles get broken down during training. The amino acids from Phil Richards' performance help reduce that. Loads of water, obviously. About 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine, depending on the length of the race. And for a longer race, a fast digesting carbohydrate source, liquid, typically high 5, dilutes easy, probably 50 to 60 grams of carbs in that. Today is a fasted race. It's only a short one, 27 kilometers. And by staying fasted, I think that helps the process of reducing body fat, i.e. cortisol and adrenaline help break down body fat to create the energy for the race. And I've eaten lots of carbs throughout the course of yesterday. I just want to emphasize that. The muscle stores are full of glycogen and the race is going to be done in 40 minutes. That's why I'm using the technique here. I think this might be the climb. expelling the CO2, dragging in the oxygen. You see I'm planted. Nasty climb to come. Dropped. Let's restart the diesel engine. You see I'm really tired now, but by going back to the 100 RPM or 95, it's a tad easier in terms of perceived exertion. Oh, I'm done. Oh, damn, got across the line. Schoolboy error. I mean, that was a hard race. We'll see what the normalised power was in a second. But that was really difficult. I mean, 4.6 watts a kilogram over the 40 minutes is very good for me. Lots of very little punchy 1 to 3 minute efforts. And so while my 1 minute power is only 390, I was having to repeatedly do sort of efforts of 350 to 400 or so. 20 minute power is in line with my FTP in obviously a 40 minute race. So let's have a look at the power. Let's turn this off. You can see 292 watts from a 20 minute power, which is about equal to my FTP of a 290, and that's nice to have done that in the middle of a race. My 1 minute and 5 minute powers are not particularly special, but it's the fact that I was having to repeat that kind of 320 to 400 watt effort over 1 to 3 minutes repeatedly that made that particularly grueling. I think the normalised power is going to be quite good when we look at it. And let's have a look now at the timeline. Yeah, so 40 odd minutes it was, and you can just see that's a proper kind of crit style profile, on and off the power continually. That was a really good workout, pretty much equivalent to an Ed Laverack polarised training session in its own right. But very, very happy with that. And the critical power, yeah, so critical power is right up there with my best over the 30 minutes and 20 minutes. I had 30 minute power of 300 on a 3-sister climbing race, but I was on a nice sustained climb up the epic KOM for that, and then the radio tower. But I was still kind of sustaining an even power, wasn't on and off. So it's showing normalised power there over the full 43 minutes, 292 watts, but obviously there was 3 minutes of kind of recovery work there. Normalised power 299 watts, that's extremely good for me. Average power 286, Zwift says 290 odd I think. But look at the cadence, that's what I'm talking about, 100 RPM. And that didn't take kind of mental fortitude to sustain that 100 RPM, quite the opposite. I've kind of trained myself through Victor's high cadence drills, but also very vigilant when I'm racing on Zwift or training on Zwift or training outdoors. If I see the RPM dropping to 90 or indeed below, I drop a gear and get the cadence back up, even if the watts are not quite in the power range I want. So that now it definitely feels more comfortable, if anything, to be sustaining that 95 to 105 RPM, and that kind of bears it out. And you'll have seen in the moments where I was struggling there, I was focusing on getting nice and forward in the saddle here, dropping the gear if anything, and really spinning. Sometimes the cadence would have been as high as 110, 115, I would guess. And I think that's been one of the big secrets or training methods, Dennis, that's really helped kind of bring on my Zwift racing, obviously allied to all the other points I was discussing, either polarized training, the dragging up zone 5 and 6, which in turn, without training them, drags up 3 and 4, the nutrition, the strength training, and the recovery. I cannot emphasize enough the recovery. But Victor, I salute you, sir. You're one hell of a pro. I enjoy your channel, but I've had a huge amount of success with your high cadence drill. So do check out Victor Campenaerts' Cadence Is Key. It's a great video, short vlog, but you'll learn a huge amount from the master, and it can supplement some of the other training, nutrition, and recovery ideas that you may be employing. Anyway, well, I really hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a lot of fun to make, if not a little bit emotional at times, but if you did, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. I'd hugely appreciate it if you would. I reckon about 50% of you who watch the videos haven't subscribed, so if you would, it would help the channel out a lot, as it would if you'd hit the notification bell. We do a lot of live streams, have a lot of fun building a community, exchanging ideas on training, nutrition, recovery, but life in general. So do become a part of the community, take part in the live chats, super lovely people on the live chats, and again, it helps the channel. In the meantime, whoever you are and whatever you do, please remember to live, thrive, and stay healthy.